Okay. So, what just happened is we recorded a whole episode um that broke down Caleb Williams in the quarterback room. And then when I went to hit stop record, realized that we had never started to record. So, what we have now.
It was honestly our best one yet, and it doesn't exist.
So what we're gonna do is we are going to now read for you, line for line, that episode that we just recorded.
I mean,
Oh.
Caleb called in. We talked to him for a while, and it's just gone. It's gone forever, man.
Lost
And nobody's gonna believe us.
and in the annals of history is our interview with Caleb Williams. Oh shit, that's funny, dude. You know what? We made it 31 episodes without that happening. We made it
That's
30
true.
episodes. So 32, 31 episodes in. Here we are. All right, you ready to give it another shot?
Yeah, let's just run it back.
Okay. That is unfucking real, man. Okay, let's run it back. DJ, let's run it the funk back.
Standing on the opposite sideline from him this year, I gained a tremendous amount of respect for not only the talent level that he possesses, but also the type of person he is. And this is going to be, really, I like to fancy it, the quarterback's offense.
Let's go, baby. Let's do it.
We are going to tailor this right around Caleb Williams. It will not be necessarily what you've seen from me the last 3 years. We're going to find out exactly what our quarterback does well, and that's really where we're going to anchor on.
Caleb floats the ball down the field, and Swift caught the ball!
Our first time speaking, we address things that won't work, doesn't work, to be able to lead teams and organizations to go win and win big games.
Goff hits St. Brown, who flips it to Jahmyr Gibbs, and Gibbs is in the end zone for a Lions touchdown.
I have friends over there at Detroit, Amon Ra and a couple other guys, and teams don't function that way. Offenses don't function that way without a guy like Ben.
Amon Ra St. Brown's going to throw it back to Goff, who had that on the bingo card.
He's had many different quarterbacks, been around many different type of teams and things like that. So being able to learn from him in those ways and execute crazy things that people like Tom Brady haven't even seen, that brings excitement.
What? I've never seen that in my life.
We want to keep defenses on edge, all right? We don't want them to know exactly what's coming. Multiplicity, formationally, schematically, to where when they see one formation and they're expecting one play that they saw on tape, they get hit in a different direction.
Good job, guys. Good job, guys. Good job. Hell of a job. No. You hell of a job.
No. You. No, you.
Okay, let's try this again. This is crazy, dude. Okay. They're building the new system around him. That says a lot about the man. A man who came in with super high expectations and saw the sky and saw the ground and all the spaces in between. As we enter into the new era of the Chicago Bears, after taking a couple deep breaths from season's end, let's begin our positional breakdowns and take a look at Caleb's first year again and explore what's in store for the man who's getting an offense built around him. So, what did we learn about Caleb Williams this last year?
I think we learned that he's very resilient.
Yeah, that's good.
Which you already know, I was going to say. And I mean, look, the reason I say that is he started every game for the Chicago Bears last year, which I think hasn't happened for years. while in the same season breaking the Bears franchise record for most sacks taken. So, I mean, he came every week, got the crap kicked out of him, and still showed up, right? For his teammates, for the fans, for the organization, played his butt off. Was it perfect? No. There's a lot of mistakes, and he's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. Holds onto the ball too long, tries to go for the home run, missed a lot of deep throws, but he did a lot of good things out there. And that was amidst a lot of different chaos, right? This was the first season the Bears have ever fired their coaching staff mid-season, and it's like, that shows you the dysfunction. He's on his fourth offensive coordinator already, and he's played 1 year of football. So he's resilient. And I think hopefully this is stability now that is coming through, and he's going to be able to shine next year, with a little bit less chaos around him.
Yeah, one of the things that when we had Caleb on in the unrecorded episode, he had talked about one of the things that he's kind of looking forward to is just one, obviously the system being built around him and kind of what that means, and also this sort of who becomes the backup, the role of the backup quarterback in a growing quarterback and some quarterback who's growing and building. That's actually genuinely something that as we're diving and looking into this, that is the importance of the backup quarterback is starting to really grow on me and to understand.
It's huge. It's huge. Yeah. I mean, look at across the NFL. Caleb was one of the few quarterbacks who started every single game for their team. Jaden got hurt, right? I think Love got hurt, right? You saw that. I think Darnold started every game. So did Goff. But quarterbacks around the league, they don't start every game. You need to have a capable backup to kind of come in and help nowadays. It's such a hard hitting game. And when you look at the Bears, and we're gonna looking at the quarterbacks this week, they have 3 quarterbacks under contract. They don't need to go get anybody, right? That it's one of the few years in Chicago Bears franchise history where you're not like, oh, who are they going to get? Big free agent? Are they going to trade up? Are they going to, go get the guy? No, they have the guy, right? They have Caleb, who's there's no competition next year. He's the number 1. They've got a respectable backup, albeit young, in Tyson. And then they've got their developmental guy with Austin Reed, who's, was the Hard Knocks darling last year and was on the practice squad, but he can sling it too. And so I think to your point, they were missing that veteran quarterback presence last year, which I think does help younger quarterbacks, right? That's exactly what New England did with Brissett. You look at the success that Jaden Daniels had, and maybe how much did Marcus Mariota play into that? I think he was a great get for the Commanders because, he's been around the block and he kind of is that athletic mold as well. The Bears didn't do that, they kind of rode with Caleb and Tyson and Austin Reed. Now they have a new coach coming in with a new system, and they have 3 young quarterbacks that are all going to learn this new system together. And to me, if I think about it, I don't see a ton of value in that, right? Unless there's a QB competition and one of these young guys you don't know which one is going to take the lead, right? And you want to see who's who. But they already have their guy. So to me, it actually makes more sense to bring in a backup quarterback that can help Caleb with this install. Doesn't have to be in Ben Johnson's system before, maybe came from a similar coaching tree, but has seen a lot of football, right? That can kind of help do some of that. And I think this is a great time to trade Tyson. He came off a couple good preseasons in a row. He had some good games in the year that Fields missed a couple. I think he played 4 games, went 2-2. And I think they even got some trade offers for him last year, but they hung on to him. But he's in year 3 of an undrafted free agent rookie deal, very cheap. It's a weak quarterback class. There's only 2 guys at the top, and those 2 guys, from everything I've read, would be like quarterbacks 6 and 7 in this year's draft and in last year's draft class. So they're not necessarily A+ prospects either. So maybe you're a team like, that's the Browns. Now the Browns are picking second, but if you're like maybe even the Jets or somebody that's like too far down to have a chance at Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and you're like, we don't have a quarterback, we don't have a plan. Maybe they trade a 3rd round pick maybe you can even get him to send a second round pick your way, and then you send back a conditional fifth or something like that, and they take a chance on Tyson, right? If he hits, great, you've got him pretty cheap for another 2 years.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, it's like, okay, you didn't trade a first or second round pick or whatever. You can still take a swing at a quarterback another year. And then for Tyson, I think it'd be great too, because he's blocked, right? He's not gonna even get the chance to start over Caleb, unless something absolutely disastrous happens, in which case I don't think any of those guys would be back.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to hold a clipboard, right, for the rest of your career. You want a chance to start, and there's plenty of places to go start. So, I mean, I haven't read this or heard this anywhere else, but I can talk myself into a situation where it makes sense to trade Tyson and bring in a veteran, to be that extra quarterback guy.
I never believed it when Tyson, like during the Hard Knocks, he was like, "I'm excited to be the backup." I was like, "Come on, bro!
Yeah.
Like you've shown that you can actually like ball, like
Yeah, you can
decent
sling
enough
it.
where there's some team." And obviously that's like what you say and all, all the right stuff. But it's like he still has this like room to
Yeah.
do some stuff, and like really even he hasn't even had a chance to like lightly flourish because of we had Justin
Yeah.
Fields and now we got Caleb and and yeah, I mean there's like that does seem significantly what was missing last year. And we said this in the initial recording, but uh, uh, Shane Waldron wasn't even watching tape with Caleb, reportedly.
Reportedly, yeah. I read that he wasn't even watching film with Caleb. Caleb had to go hire like an outside quarterback guy to watch film with him, which is ridiculous, right? And maybe if he had that veteran backup quarterback like a Mariota, right? He could have watched film with him and been like, "Tell me what you see. What am I missing?" Because when you watched Caleb play, the talent, you could see it, but it's maybe not reading the defense right correctly the first time, holding on to the ball too long, right? Maybe some of those things on film he's not seeing because nobody's in that room with him showing him what he should see. And also Waldron didn't let him audible either, right? He built his offense. I mean, so he had his offense in a scheme and he put Caleb into it.
Yeah.
And I think what you heard early on in that clip with Ben, it's going to work the opposite way, where Ben's got all the football knowledge, he's got all the plays. Now it's figuring out which plays work for Caleb and then building the offense with those plays, right, in mind. And so I think that'll give Caleb an opportunity to like kind of flourish a little bit more. And then obviously the Declan Doyle hire I think will be great too. He helped Bo Nix take just like 20 something sacks last year. So having somebody watching film with him being like, here's where the guy's going to come off of. Which gap is he going to come off of? What's your responsibility? Who's going to be unblocked, right? How do you get out of this? Where's your check down? Things like that, I think will go a long way. So I think that veteran QB will be helpful. There's plenty of guys out on the market. We talked about Jimmy G and Jacoby and Flacco. And I thought maybe Teddy Bridgewater, who came into Detroit last year in the middle of the season. And so he's got some direct Ben Johnson experience, could be an option too. And then the guy I compared Tyson to earlier, Gardner Minshew, I said, why can't Tyson have a Gardner Minshew arc? I mean, he absolutely could. I don't see why he couldn't. And then maybe Minshew's a backup quarterback option, right? He's been in a lot of systems. He's seen a lot of different football. He's not really a threat to take over for Caleb, and so I thought, that there's another veteran backup option.
Yeah, that it's just kind of this. It's like the low key important position for the Bears, I
Yeah,
think, in many ways. Like like even if they didn't do anything, like it seems like pretty clear that Caleb is going to at least have a system around him where he can
yeah,
develop and flourish. But like the marginal increase that a veteran, solid, someone who can provide you the eyes of someone who's seen things and
yeah,
like the subtleties, that like marginal jump could potentially be like the normal progression of being in what is your second year, a system structured around
yeah,
you by people who understand stuff and like you excelling at a degree where it's like we've just excelled that just unfortunately I just don't the quarterback room as currently set up, they just don't have Tyson doesn't have the overall has thrown a shit ton of
right,
footballs but doesn't have the like
exactly.
NFL eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, who would have been great, and I just don't think he has the makeup for it, is Russell Wilson. I think would have been good because he is kind of that same mold as Caleb, where kind of not necessarily a running quarterback, but a scrambling quarterback, somebody who's like shifty on their feet. Now he takes a lot more hits in the last couple of years because he's lost a step, but he used to be very good at protecting his body, running out of bounds, when to slide, avoiding hits. And then his deep ball is like one of the best in the league. And that's where Caleb struggles, his deep ball accuracy. Would have been nice to have a veteran there that can maybe help him with some of his weaknesses that's been around the block, right? But I think Russell probably wants to start somewhere next year, or I don't know, he just doesn't seem to have the backup quarterback mentality. Maybe he will. I don't know, but yeah, I think that would have been a good fit too.
Yeah. It almost feels like he sort of disappeared a little bit in Detroit or in Denver. And then like I don't know what his time was like there, and maybe
It
honestly I felt
just
like
didn't work. Yeah.
yeah, and it seems like the Steelers were just on TV so much for some reason this year. I don't know if they were more than normal, but yeah, he sort of like kind of disappeared and then sort of started again. It is interesting, I guess I don't know. Yeah, who knows what gives him perspective. It's like this is a good situation. You can teach this man, you play an important role.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Yeah. Um, I find it's such an interesting prospect to have this system built around this man, like there's just, as a fan, it's like, how can you not be confident, I guess, because they're like, we are.
Are you daring to hope? Are you having that audacity?
Every Monday at 8:30, my hope gets reignited. It's a weird. It's just yeah. It's just a very exciting thing. As you said, and as Ben Johnson said, like they're really trying to look at the person that they have, who they're still trying to understand
Yeah.
and create a thing centered around him and his value, and that just says a lot about at least the sort of vision versus whatever we had last year.
Well, this positional breakdown is an optimistic one, right? Because it's got the least amount of drama. Yes, it's the most important, and you want to say like there's not a lot of big moves to be made, but I think hiring Ben Johnson and Declan Doyle was a big move for this positional group, and I think moving Tyson aside, right, that could be something. But even if they went into next year with these three players, it's fine. And there's not a lot of drama here, and you're just kind of hoping that the changes that they made at the coaching position are enough to elevate this group as a whole. There'll be other positional breakdowns that we do that won't be as optimistic.
Yeah.
But this one feels like it's on a good trajectory, and it's obviously the most important one.
Yeah, yeah. Is there any part of you that's concerned about maybe I don't know, regression's not the right word, but like a whole new system being built, a lot of learning, like the beginnings of it
Oh
being
yeah.
difficult and maybe bad as they try and just figure out
Yeah.
what the hell they're doing.
Remember I said at the beginning, it's going to take 4.5, 5 games to figure out, and then it did, and then it didn't.
Yeah.
I can see something similar, right? They're going to have a new system. They're going to have new coaches. They're going to have 3 new interior offensive linemen. So the offensive linemen that are closest to the ball, all 3 of them will be new. Caleb's going to have probably a new center snapping it to him. I don't know. Maybe they keep Coleman Shelton. Seems doubtful. Maybe he's a backup, whatever. But like, it's going to take some time. But the good news is you have a coaching staff that prioritizes that development, right? Eberflus just kind of like walked around and gave people nicknames. Waldron wasn't even watching film with Caleb. And so you've got Ben Johnson and Declan Doyle that are dedicated to making this work. And I can see them putting in a lot of time. And then, now that you have Dennis Allen, an experienced head coach on the defensive side, I don't know how much time Ben's even going to really, spend on that side of the ball. And we'll get into the defense in a different breakdown. But I think there'll be some learning curves for sure. I'm not expecting it to be smooth out of the gate.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think what lacked was like just what the fuck are we doing? That like it just or that's like what clearly existed was that question. Direction, organization, those things where even if it's like they're not winning or whatever, there just seemed to be something lacking significantly last
I think the big difference you might see is that Eberflus and Waldron, it didn't, when they were working through their kinks, they would just still do the same shit over and over again. And they'll be like, eventually it'll work because, we'll get enough practice at it, or we'll get good enough at these wide receiver bubble screens and this other shit they were running where the players eventually will get it. I think the difference will be here is this staff will do things. Some of it will work and some of it won't. But the things that won't work, they'll evaluate whether they need to have that in the playbook. Is it not working because it doesn't fit our player's skill set, or is it not working because we haven't practiced it enough and the timing's not right? I think they'll do a deeper dive into that. So, while you might see things not work with both regimes, I think this offensive minded one will at least evaluate themselves every week, unlike the previous one, which is just like, we just got to keep practicing it and eventually it'll start clicking.
Yeah.
Could be the big difference there.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Something not working, it's either because you're doing it wrong or like you should stop doing it. And
Yeah, you either haven't practiced it enough or
Yeah.
it just doesn't fit your skill sets. Like Waldron running tight end screens and having Rome on the outside blocking. It's just a stupid play because Rome was, he's not a good blocker right now. Maybe he will be, but he's a rookie and he's getting tossed around by these men, these DBs. And Komet's not a speedster. He ain't gonna run past anybody. So these screens weren't working. I feel like that's one of those things they kept trying to do, and they're like, oh, eventually we'll get it right, and but it just didn't fit the skill set of the players that we had. And I can see if that Ben Johnson tried to run that play, and it's like, okay, you know what, that's not going to work. Cole's not fast enough to get around a bad block that Rome provides, and Rome's not, big and strong enough yet to like take on some of these DBs or understand the angle of attack. That'll come maybe later. Maybe I'll install that next year if I get a speedster tight end and Rome, works on his blocking, but let's just can it for now, right? Maybe that's a different approach that they take, but I'm being optimistic again. So
yeah, the curse
We'll
of
I know.
hope.
I'll stop doing that.
Okay, so as we close out, any final thoughts before we wrap up take 2?
We are recording, right?
Yeah, I've checked about 4,000 times throughout this episode to just make sure that I hit record. So yes, we are recording.
Oh, well, Caleb didn't call in for this one, so that's disappointing, but we'll try to get him on next time.
For Samir Patel, I'm Chirag Rathod. We are the Bears in the neighborhood, and we will catch you all next week.
That's it, right? We're not doing this a third time.
No, we are not doing it a third